immediately I started seeing the violence. Didn't see as much of it. Saw a couple of fights in county jail, but in prison, there's violence, and it was, of course, I saw some violence in the Marine Corps, but this was on a different level. And
what got you through? What could have prepared you for this is nothing. But what would you say? I mean, how did you adjust? How did you get? What were the kind of mental conditioning or mental preparedness or perform? What kind of things? What kind of mind games did you have to play to get through this?
Well, one of my biggest fears was that somebody would find out that I was a prosecutor,
Right.
former prosecutor.
Yeah, I could imagine.
And that could have been a death sentence for sure. To join certain organizations, some people would call them gangs. I'll choose organizations. To gain entrance into them, sometimes you have to commit an act of violence. And so I was always afraid that I'd be found out and I would be the target of that. So the mental piece is enormous. The physical piece is, being ready to fight, being ready physically to fight, and knowing that it's going to happen. It's eventually going to happen. So, but the mental piece is the hardest because you don't know how far you can take a conversation with someone. You don't want to be disrespectful. And respect is the name of the game in prison. But if you're too respectful, then you're soft. It's this thing that you have to overcome in your mind. And what you'll understand about it is the acceptance piece. And it's accepting that I'm here and I have to figure this out very quickly. I have to understand the politics among the prisoners. I have to understand who's in charge of what. And then I have to find my place in that that's going to keep me safe and going to keep me sane. And finding my place was absolutely critical. Fortunately for me, one, maybe this is a psychosis, I don't know, but I'm not afraid to fight. I'm not a very good fighter, but I'm not afraid to do it. And two, I had the legal background. So, half the people in there didn't commit the crime. Half the people in there did commit the crime and admit to it, but they have appeals to do. They have habeas corpus petitions. They have Federal Bureau of Prisons complaints that they file. And then there's appeals processes. So somehow I got a job in the law library. And it had nothing to do with me being an attorney. I just went into the civilian who ran that area, and she needed somebody. And so I got the job. So then people started to find out that I had practiced law. And some of the people that needed help were the shot callers for some of the organizations I just spoke about. So the shot callers, for people who don't know, are the leaders of that particular organization within that prison.
So you got these affiliations as a result of however the inmates had kind of organized themselves, and like anywhere, leaders emerge to the top, and these shot callers. I'm like envisioning you like the Shawshank Redemption attorney to the accountant. There, you're like you're able to do the appeals. You've got this value.
Andy Dufresne.
Yeah,
I love that film.
Yeah, of course. You're like the Andy Dufresne of the law library there at the federal penitentiary.
It's true, and they also knew. I'm just a little bit nuts, just a hair, and that's all it took. So, and I also wasn't a mark. That was the other thing. And so when I worked with some of the guys going in, that's something that we always have to work on. But anyway, so these guys would come to me, and I mean, the shot callers are highly respected. It's
Sure.
basically like your CEO walking in and everybody stands up kind of thing. not me. I didn't stand up because I'm not part of the organization, but something as simple as, um, oh, I should back up for a second. So in prison, you have to pick your own name. It's a phenomenon. You don't have to, but nobody calls themselves by their first name, especially um, typically you see it among the minority community, and that goes back to, that goes back 100 years, because of the way that they've been treated by the government. Uh, and so picking an alias, it's harder to find out who exactly that person is. So
Right.
so um, so I didn't know what to pick. Everybody would call me Andrew or Drew growing up. And so that's what I went by. So one day I'm sitting around, I'm like, no, you know what? The absurdity levels, Charlie, are through the roof. It's unbelievable. And so one day I'm just sitting there staring at my wall, and I've already read probably 1,000 pages that day, done 1,000 push-ups that day, walked 5 miles the yard, and now, and it's only 10 in the morning, right? So I had the entire day. So I'm in the law library. I decided I need to pick my own name, and this guy comes in, and he said, "Hey, nice to meet you." Um, he said, "My name's Allah." And I thought, wow, that's a pretty big name to give yourself.
Yeah.
Talk about setting the standard pretty high. And I said, "It's nice to meet you. My name's Messiah." And he just crumbled because I don't know. It's just like my name was better or something. And I just picked it. It just popped into my head. So everybody started calling me Messiah. It was the most absurd thing you've ever heard. But there was a few guys that just were friends of mine that would just refuse to do it. And it became like this joke. So anyhow, I started doing these appeals and habeas corpus petitions for some of the shot callers. And I really helped anybody, though.
Right.
It was anybody who needed help. And the treatment that they would get in prison was just abhorrent. You can't imagine. And I'm not saying by among other prisoners. I'm saying by Federal Bureau of Prisons. It's awful. It's unbelievably bad. And someday we'll talk more about it. But it's so as soon as I'm helping a shot caller, no one's going to bother me. No one's going to step to me or try to rob me or try to fight me. One fight did occur, or a couple did occur, but those were from people that weren't affiliated with any organization. So, I sort of unwittingly protected myself because of my knowledge of the law, and also because I wasn't a Marx. But it was intense, and the mind games are incredibly intense. Like you and I could be talking, and let's say that we're not. You'll have a couple of friends in prison that you confide in some stuff, but you really can't trust anybody. Like I trust you inherently for some reason, and we have only known each other a short time.
I know,
But
right?
in prison, it's just not a good idea. And so we're talking, and then it became a mind game over whether I would borrow his magazine that he gets in the mail every month. And there's a pecking order to borrowing someone's magazine. And so what I did was I traded him a piece of fruit to get moved up the list of people to the top. So I would be the first person to get the new magazine that came in the mail. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the answer obviously is if you haven't experienced it, no. But as you're describing it, it makes total. It's like there's a hierarchy, a hierarchy that's been installed and a set of rules, and it's up to you to figure them out. And I think it's amazing how, to me, the word that comes to mind is like hypervigilant. It's like you're always, they'd use the term walking on eggshells, I guess is another way to describe it, but you're really, where do you find peace? Where do you where do you shut your eyes and find it? If I'm in a conversation, am I saying the right things? Am I asking the right questions? Did I move the right needle? Did I get the right card? Did I ask for the right cigarettes? I mean, it's like, to me, it just seems like constant hypervigilance without any peace or solitude.
Charlie, that's exactly what it is. Even when you're sleeping at night and the cell closes, you know your cellie, okay? You know him, you get along, but how well do you know somebody? How well do you know somebody? And but all day long, it's like that. And when I got out, we're jumping ahead, but I'll go right back. Everybody who knew me when I got out said, geez, you walk different, you look different. It looks like like you're paranoid, or like you're just waiting for something to happen. And I didn't know that I went through that transformation. And it took quite a bit of time. I still flip into that mode every now and then, but not where people can notice it, but I feel it inside. I'm like, relax, why am
Yeah.
I, I'm in a grocery store. So where did I find peace and solace? You can go to the yard, which is the exercise area, and you can be alone. The yard is enormous. I don't know, it's maybe 5-10 football fields all the way around, I would say, in terms of size. And that's the rec area, the rec yard. And so you could go down there. And so I would find a place, usually in the middle of one of the fields, and sit down, read, and meditate, pray. And I had gotten away from my spirituality. I was completely bankrupt in that department, but I started to meditate to a universal energy, a higher power. And I had dabbled with 12-step programs. And so I understood that there was a power greater than myself that I had ignored or not reached out to whatsoever for a long, long time. But even then, you're still, you're not closing your eyes to meditate for 30 minutes, in a seated position. You're still very vigilant.
Did you maintain your sobriety in prison?
I did for a long time. For 3 years, I did. And then circumstances at home, particularly with my father and his health, and 50 other excuses, right? But somebody had made prison hooch, which is basically mashed up fruit, bacteria, and it grows over 3 or 4 days, but it's absolutely rocket fuel. And so I would drink that on occasion. You'd pay for it. Excuse me. But no, I didn't. I did not. I had the opportunity many times to do heroin, and I didn't. And I write about this in one chapter, about what went through my mind when I had the opportunity. I was speaking with a psychologist the other day who smokes cigarettes. He's still, tobacco's his thing. And he said something like, "Tobacco is my muse." And so for me, that was heroin or OxyContin, or any opioid, really, because that's the no field, no deal drug. All that insecurity, fear, worry. I mean, all that stuff goes away, but we know it's just a temporary thing. It doesn't work long. But I had this opportunity, and then, but once I got through with the first opportunity, and also for the prisoners that could afford to pay me, everything's a hustle. You get paid for everything whether you run your own little store in your cell, that you sell people stuff off the commissary when they run out, to cleaning, there's a guy who can clean your cell for you, a guy who'll do your laundry for you, a guy who will do your legal work for you, but you're going to pay him. And legal work obviously was one of the higher paying jobs among prisoners.